I feel like switching it up and making a video that is a lot more laid back than what you're probably used to on the channel. I'm going to be going over what I think are the silliest aircraft in War Thunder, and I want you guys to let me know in the comments right now what you think the 5 goofiest planes in War Thunder to play are. I am curious to hear what you guys have to say. The criteria for this is largely in the looks department for me, but there are a couple of unique features about some of these planes that I think really props them up as goofier than some of the other planes in the game. And before we get started, I do want to mention today's video sponsor really quick, me. I am today's video sponsor. It is official, guys. I have my own affiliate link for the Gaijin store. If you use my link in the description down below, you get 3% off of any purchase you make on the War Thunder store. Currently, there is not a decal that will come with the purchase if you do use my link, and it's not going to be retroactively added to your account when it is added into the game. So if you really want that decal and you're only going to use the link one time, then I would definitely wait until the decal comes out. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and examine our first silly plane of the day, and that's going to be the Ki 44 Atsu. This is a 3.0 Japanese premium, and it's actually extremely strong at 3.0 BR. This plane has the exact same, well, pretty much the exact same flight performance as the Ki 44-2 High He. I'm not sure, but it's got 450 cows at that battle rating 3.7, whereas this one pretty much the exact same flight performance, but it only has 250 cows and 2 40mm cannons, and that's where it gets a little bit silly. These 40mm cannons are the lowest velocity aircraft guns in the entire game, and you could imagine how difficult they are to aim sometimes. Even at this low battle rating where everything's moving extremely slow, you still have to pull what feels like a mile's worth of lead to actually hit the shot. In most cases, if you do hit the shot though, the plane absolutely evaporates upon being impacted by one of these 40mm shells. Aside from that, it's just pretty much a really good 3.0 fighter. You still get 250 cals, and the Japanese 50 cals are very good with the air target belts, and so you really don't even need the 40mm cannons whatsoever. You could absolutely play the entire match using just your 500 rounds of 50 cal and do just fine. I do think the 40mm warranted a spot on this list though, because they are the lowest velocity aircraft guns, and it is kind of goofy to play sometimes. The next jet on the list is going to be the Javelin. What's so goofy about the Javelin? A lot of you are probably going to ask, well, I mean, just look at it. It's absolutely hideous. I have genuinely maybe never seen a more ugly jet aircraft in my entire life. Sure, that is a very subjective take. I completely understand if you don't agree with it, but this thing is just hideous. On top of that, it kind of came out with the F-100 and the MiG-19, and it was supposed to be seen as more of a peer-to-peer fighter against those other ones, and that is a complete joke. So it kind of has a little bit of a meme history behind it. It's ugly, and it's just really big and awkward, and it's just a silly plane. Now granted, if you get a full down tier into a 7.3 match, it's actually relatively strong. You're extremely fast compared to the other planes that you're going to be fighting in that kind of a matchup, but all in all, it's still not something that I really enjoy flying out. It can be fun if the matchmaker's good to you, but I just don't like risking it. And of course, you do get Fire Streak missiles, which are 15G infrared missiles, so that's something. They aren't very good, even though they say 15G. They're really easy to dodge. They're really slow, don't have much range, that type of thing. But nonetheless, that's my pick for the Javelin there at number 4. And for number 3, we have kind of a similar story. It's just absolutely hideous. And I'm talking about none other than the glorious American XP-55. I did spend a few minutes browsing the tech trees when I was making this video and coming up with the idea, and I really could not find an aircraft that I found more ugly than the XP-55. Jet, prop, doesn't matter. This takes the cake in my opinion for the most hideous plane in all of War Thunder. That being said, it's actually not that bad. It's at battle rating 4.0, and its flight performance is pretty solid. You could definitely have some good matches in it. It's not something that you're going to be struggling to play. It's a little bit awkward at times, especially in the rudder and the aiming at high speeds, but it is a good change of pace from what the average American plane is playing like at the BR. It does give you a little bit of a different play style, and the XP-55 definitely lets you be a little bit more aggressive and involved in furballs and whatnot than what other American planes allow you to do. Granted, this plane does look extremely similar to the Japanese J7W, so why did I pick this one and not the J7? Well, simple answer is I just think that this one somehow looks uglier than the J7W even, and I wasn't about to put two almost identical looking planes on this list for pretty much the same reason, so I had to pick one or the other, and yeah, the XP55, it's just worse. It looks so bad. I don't know what they were thinking when they designed it, but I probably just wouldn't play it based on how it looks alone. Next up is extremely different for me, and that's how you know I've kind of lost my rocker at this point. I have a bomber in my video, and I'm actually giving a bomber my attention. Yes, this is the BV-238 at the number 2 silliest plane in War Thunder. And why is it so silly? Well, it's just a memey, flying, floating hotel, and it's got a lot of guns, and at the battle rating it's at, it can be kind of a gunship. And I'm not gonna lie, I've done it before when I've been going through my War Thunder career and whatnot, where I've landed this thing on bodies of water, and I just sat there on the water floating and shot at whoever came after me. Now, I completely sucked at the game. I couldn't aim the gunners for my life, and I still really don't aim gunners well because I don't play bombers, but especially back then when I was 15 years old playing around with this thing, I didn't do very well. But you know what, I still had fun anyways, because I was one of those cringy kids that had fun doing that in this game. And so this is where what I mean when I say I've pretty much been every stage of player in the game at any given point. If you think about somebody, some stereotype of player on War Thunder, I've probably been through that phase. I've been playing this game for a very long time and for a good portion of my life. I find it rather amusing that it has tail gunners in the actual wings of the airplane, which is kind of unique. I can't think of any planes off the top of my head in the game that have gunners in the wings. Usually they're somewhere in the fuselage, and that's considered normal, but BV-238, definitely a unique design, definitely a goofy looking little plane, and the fact that it can float while doing all of this stuff does kind of put it on this list for me as a number 2 spot. I apologize in advance if this causes a spike in BV-238 sales and players and all that kind of stuff, because I don't enjoy playing against them anymore. I don't enjoy playing against any bomber. I have very strong opinions about bomber and why they need their own game mode in War Thunder, and that would just be a win-win for everybody. But nonetheless, here it is. That's what I have on my list for number 2 silliest planes in War Thunder. And alas, the number 1 spot is of course going to be the Horton 229. And why is it the Horton 229? Well, this plane once upon a time actually used to be somewhat decent, if I recall. Now granted, I was never really good at the game when this plane was actually good, so I don't know for sure. I might be remembering wrong, maybe I just sucked and died to him all the time. But there was a time before it got moved up to 8.0 to fight F-86 F2 Sabres that this thing was actually somewhat competitive, fighting things like the F-80 Shooting Star and similar tiered planes. Nowadays, it's pretty much just power crept into oblivion. There's a lot of new 7.0, 7.3, 7.7 jets that absolutely stomp this thing, and the fact it has absolutely no rudder, it makes it difficult to aim, the guns have been nerfed, and so on and so on and so on. But this is absolutely the most unique aircraft design in War Thunder. I don't think there's any other flying wings in the game, and in fact I don't know if there's any other flying wings in history besides the B-2 bomber. Of course there was that American one, the propeller one or whatever, but I don't think really anything came of that. So you have the Horton 229 and maybe the B-2, but other than that, yeah, I just think it's extremely unique. I think it is kind of silly not having a rudder, not having any kind of vertical stabilizer like that. It makes aiming like this extremely difficult, even when you think you would have somebody here in this kind of situation, and the shot should be pretty easy as they're stalling out in front of you. The 229 makes sure that you're going to have to really work for it. That is one positive about the 229, is that even though it stalls out pretty fast in verticals and it loses speed pretty quickly while turning, it still maintains a pretty decent turn rate on extremely low speeds, just because it just keeps going. It turns tightly because it's just a flying wing, and so you can actually just hold S on people if they're willing to do so, and eventually you kind of do win against a lot of planes. Nobody really wants to do that because I think most people know that this thing is a pretty dangerous turn fighter, even at this battle rating, but if they're not going to be falling for it, you're kind of just going to be at the mercy of your enemy for whether or not you're going to be able to kill anybody all game. So that's my list of silliest planes in War Thunder. Let me know what your list is down in the comments below, and tell me why. I do want to see reasons, because that just makes it more interesting. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again real soon.